Today is Wednesday, and we are at F45 in Grosvenor Crossing in Bryanston. And today I'm with Karen Loader.
Hello.
Really cool to finally get this right.
Thanks for having me.
I think let's start off with, what is your official title?
So my official title, I am the CEO of Functional Fitness South Africa, which is the trading name for F45 Training South Africa. And we have the master franchise rights for all of F45 across South Africa and Mauritius. And then, I also own Bryanston and Four Ways as a franchisee as well.
So two franchises that you own yourself, but then also head of everything.
The master franchise,
So Mauritius, just a little plug in there as well, just in case anyone's going away and they still want to train.
Exactly. So there's some bigger plays there that we're looking at potentially getting into some of the club meds, beach comas, things like that in terms of providing an experience while you're on holiday. Because I feel that a lot of the lodges and hotels kind of think of the gym as an afterthought.
Yeah.
And let's provide an experience, and F45 is the best way to do that.
As you talk about, this is obviously it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change. When you decide to come here, there's a bit of a sense of a community that happens. Why did you decide, because clearly you're not from South Africa, so why did you decide to bring this to the country?
So I'm actually a hotelier by trade. I've worked for the Four Seasons Hotels for 10 years, and I've always loved fitness. I went to a sports high school, have done one marathon. They say you do one or you do many. I've done one. Half marathons, all that sort of stuff. So I've always been very, very active, and F45 was born in Sydney, which is where I'm from, and I've known of the brand for such a long time. They started in 2011, franchising 2013. By that point, I was already out of Four Seasons in Sydney across to Four Seasons in Austin, Texas. And so I just kept missing F45 as I kept hopping across. But I had some friends who owned franchises or were members at the franchises across Australia. And so it just kept coming up on my feed, and I kept just seeing, like, what is this? So when I'd go home, I'd go into a session with friends or family and just absolutely love it. So after my hotel career moving across to South Africa, I was in Palabora out of all places, and I started to inquire back in 2014, 2015, how do I get this thing here? I saw the investment cost for it, and I thought, it's not going to work in Palabora. I'm going to have to wait until I get to Joburg. And so then in 2018, 2019, when I moved back this side, that's when I started to look at the opportunity, and I thought, well, if I'm going to want to do this style of training, I'm going to have to open up myself. So it's essentially what we had done. I've got some friends from overseas to help back it, and then we opened up the first studio in 2020, which was not the greatest time, but we're still standing.
It's an interesting thing to say. So you open up the first studio smack bang when COVID happens, and obviously then everything shuts down. We weren't allowed to do anything. So what was the reason for then deciding to still keep it whilst we were going through COVID? Obviously you weren't allowed to have people in here. So how did you cope with that?
Yeah. Gosh, it was such a crazy time. Husband's in the travel space, I'm in fitness. We just had a newborn 2 weeks into it. It was just everything. But it's funny because all I have is fond memories of that time, which is crazy if you don't focus too much on the negative all the time. And so I am a really big believer in having an abundance mindset. So we closed our doors. We'll open on the 29th of Feb 2020, had to close our doors by the 26th of March 2020. And I just decided, like, don't freak out. It's going to be okay. This can't happen forever. And within that period as well, there was a few things within the franchise in itself here in South Africa specifically that, I realized that, like, there was a lot of processes and systems that weren't in place, that wasn't suited. Coming from a hotel background, having those processes and policies in place was so important. So it actually gave me some time to sit and just be like, okay, like, where are my pain points? What is it that I need to do to ensure the success of this thing? Our landlords, as landlords are also business owners and have debts to pay off as well. We got a deferral on our rental, but we still had to pay that back over like a 12-month period. I still had to pay for staff. So there was a lot of stress in that sense, but I just thought, like, just stay calm. We'll get through it. Then when we were able to open back up again, we were able to open up, I think, with like 6 people. And so it was just the rebuild from there, and then from the 6 it turned to 10, from the 10 it turned to 18, and then we just started to build it back up. And I think it was August 2021, really. So if you think from Feb 2020 through till August 2021, I don't know if you guys can remember, I still remember it clearly, but it was July that they did one more lockdown, and everyone in South Africa was just like, enough. That's where we're at. We'll give you the last 3 weeks, but we are done. So August 2021 is pretty much what I would see as my month one, and with huge black hole in terms of the debt and things like that we accrued over that 18-month period. But today this studio, which was the one, is the top performing studio in South Africa, I believe in all of Africa. And we've come out of it, and I think a big part of it is thanks to it's thanks to our team, it's thanks to our membership base and the community that we've been able to build around here, and then of course the right mindset as well and tracking the right numbers.
I think it's something that you touched on there, is the right mindset. If you were you went from having nothing to being to having it being closed, to having 6 people, the opportunity to spend more time on an intimate level with smaller amounts of people in your class also gives you that personal touch, and it obviously gets you to an opportunity to refine. Whereas if there was 20, 30 people in the class, you couldn't do that. So obviously, it all happens for a reason, thankfully, and it's still, you've stuck around. In terms of the numbers now, what are we looking at in what we have in South Africa? How many franchises do you have? So
we have now 24 franchises sold, which is super, super exciting. We've got, as of this weekend, Clubview are opening up. So we'll have 16 operational studios as of this weekend.
Okay, so you said Clubview.
Clubview, yeah.
That's where?
In Pretoria, Centurion.
Sure.
So they're opening up, and then we've got another 4 studios opening up over the next kind of 3 or 4 weeks. So they're in their sort of final stages in terms of the build out and the fit out, and then we'll have another 2 studios opening up around October, early November, and then one more towards the end of the year. So we'll have we should have 24 studios opened up by December, which is exciting.
It is incredibly exciting, and as you said, you've got 2, so you see it from both sides of things. Obviously, you see it from a franchisee point of view, but then also from the franchisor point of view. So it's easy for a franchisor to punt a business and to say, this is the thing, this is why you should do it. It's easy when it's yours and everybody else goes, oh, well, of course they're going to say great things about it. But being a franchisee gives you another side of things where you can, the proof's in the pudding. So obviously it is something that's valuable in terms of a return on investment. So numbers, what are we looking at for a standard average sort of setup? What would we look at? If I came to you and I said, look, I'm keen, this is where I'm looking at. Do you have any, are there any conflicts of interest in that area? And what size square meterage, what would I look at? What's a ballpark figure?
So to open up an F45 to get you to ribbon cutting, you're looking between 3 and 3.5 million. Some people kind of gasp at that for a gym, and they think, geez, that's a lot of money. And it's definitely not small change, but at the same time, the credibility that you get behind the brand, but also the support that you receive. So as an example, you get all the workouts are delivered to us through what's called F45 TV. That goes directly to our TVs, and the whole network is doing the same workout within that same week. And so, when you start to look at that sort of stuff, as well as the partnerships that F45 has, with being the global training partner for Hyrox, being now a global partner with Red Bull, being a global partner with Strava, and so many others across the world, that credibility that you receive from day one almost is almost priceless in a sense. And so it's really, really well, the business case in itself is mature now, and it works, and you're typically looking at an ROI of, within kind of year 4, year 5, most people are starting to make their full investment back already at that point of time. So it's a great business model from that side of things. And then what you would see is that within that whole price, it's all the equipment that you see within the studio, everything from the flooring to the TVs, to all the branded stuff and everything. So, oftentimes the way I like to see it is, if you're going to buy a house or real estate and you spend 3.5 million on a 2 or a 3 bedroom apartment, what can you get from a rental standpoint? Maybe 18, 20, 23K a month. And yet you still have your mortgage to pay. So that's not profit. Where with a business like this, we're seeing at this studio, we see a 27% profit margin month on month, which is it's a good number. We're not Bitcoin. We're not seeing thousands of percent increase, but it's a really, really good business. And for people like myself or a lot of other investors that we're seeing that don't want to necessarily be in it day to day the whole time, you don't have to, because you've got a support system and the scalability behind it, where we've got other franchisees that are wanting to be the studio manager and the owner and the operator and everything like that, and they're able to do that, and then they can save on the studio manager expense from a wages standpoint. Although I always say still put your wage through, because you should be getting paid for the work that you get done. So you can't say, hey, I'm doing this much profit and you're getting paid naught. So we teach a lot of that as well. And with the local support, since we took over the master franchise rights in August of last year, these studios have started to see an increase in their revenues just purely based on the fact that we understand the African market. And then with my experience specifically between these two studios, and then also the hotel side of things and the financial side of things, we've introduced things like KPIs and all of that sort of stuff that just people then just have eyes on their business, and now suddenly they're realizing, oh, okay, now I get it.
Within the actual business, there are more opportunities that we are maybe falling over every single day. When I look at it from an elevator point of view, you're able to pinpoint those and work through them.
Exactly. So, and where I love data, like if I nerd out on that, and my head of operations will always just kind of roll his eyes at it. But I often see myself as a bit of a kingfisher. You got to be above the water in order to be able to see. And then when you do see something, you go down, you get it, and then you go back up again, and then you do the same thing. So often people will say to me, like, Karen, I just don't understand. You've got so much going on all the time, yet you still know that this person has done X, Y, and Z. Like, how? And I'm like, because I know what to look for, and I can see. My husband was a game ranger, and he would say, when you're spotting animals, you need to see what's not supposed to be there, and then that's when you see the animal. And so I think the same with business is have a look at the data and see what's not supposed to be there, and if it's not supposed to be there and you're seeing it, why? Yeah. So you got to question it.
You got to have that mindset of also wanting to improve all the time.
Exactly.
So, and that's the thing, when you come to a class, like an F45, what makes us different to, let's call it, our two standard big gym brands? What is different between what they're doing and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I think if you're speaking of like the big box stuff, obviously this is so much more personal in the sense that we are a coach-led experience. You're coming through, we have the TVs that are there to help facilitate the class. And, if you're forgetful like me sometimes and you get to your station 4 and you're like, I can see dumbbells, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do, I can have a look at the TVs and I can do that. Or I can say, does it look like I'm doing this properly? And you can kind of self-adjust. You'll notice within the studios, we have no mirrors, and there's a purpose for that. And it's because we don't want the egos, and we don't want people to be intimidated within that environment. And we get so many comments in terms of the fact that people just love the fact that there's no mirrors, but that's where the coaches then need to come into play. So all our coaches are certified personal trainers, and we meet with our coaches on a bi-weekly basis, but every month there's also what's called F45 Academy, which is part of what you get within the business model as well, and that's education and knowledge from the F45 HQ team. So there's a purpose. Each stage within F45, we have these 4-week phases. And with those 4-week phases, there's purpose behind that phase. So our coaches need to go through what that one hour or 2-hour webinar is in terms of, okay, what's the purpose of this phase? Why are we doing what we're doing? And then we can intentionally coach our members to ensure that they're pushing themselves to achieve the result that needs to be had.
I think it's an important part of the business is that you're not only improving the studio, you're improving the coaches in their own journeys. Mm-hmm. So it also adds value to them. Having said that about the two bigger gym franchises, there's been a massive shift in what their upgrades have seen. So their upgrades are moving a lot into this type of stuff. Yep. So, obviously you guys have got the lead, you've got the gap in the market. They've seen it, they've seen what people want. And they're definitely moving to this type of thing. So, obviously you mentioned Hyrox. Mm-hmm. Hyrox has been phenomenal. CrossFit was the be all and end all, and obviously it is, for want of a better word, dying a quick death. And I think also because Hyrox doesn't have as many the exercises that you're doing there are not nearly as hectic as what you're doing in the high rock side of things. But if we look at how high rocks has grown in the short space of time that it's been here, it's definitely not going away. If we look at what, we first Cape Town, then Joburg, and look at back at Cape Town again and how those numbers have increased. And the significant change there, for me, especially when I look at it, is in the lady market, is to see how the lady numbers have grown. And I think that's an environment that this encourages, is the ladies. I mean, it's a fact that, ladies will feel more comfortable if there's more ladies, and obviously guys are guys, and if there's more ladies, of course they're going to be there. So I think it's a great thing to see with what you guys are doing on that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, there's a place, I feel like there's a place for all of it in the market as we speak at the moment. And again, I think it comes back down to, what's the goal and what's the intention behind it. So for us with F45, we focus on functional training and, ensuring that it's training for everybody for everybody. And I think High Rocks is a race for that. It allows the competitiveness for regular day-to-day people to be able to show up on a day and push themselves and do something that they didn't realize that they'll ever be able to do. So, a lot of our members have done High Rocks, and they just say to us, like, I would never have put myself in this position. And whether they're doing it in an hour and 10 minutes or they're doing it in just under 2 hours, it doesn't matter. We're so proud of everybody, and the community comes together, and it's just incredible. But, for us, we're still F45. So I know that a lot of these CrossFit boxes have de-affiliated, and they're now, hybrid, High Rocks gyms and whatever, which is also great. But for us, we are F45. We just happen to offer some High Rocks style training that will get you ready for the day. And I think High Rocks Global has seen, the benefit of what we offer as a global community with F45. And that's why we're the global training partner for High Rocks as a whole across the world. So it's definitely an exciting time. And, we do here, like on a Sunday session, we do High Rocks specific training. We get the running involved and everything like that. But what we always say is just F45ers, we've got to run more. Like that's what we've got to do. But you just got to hit the pavement and off you go. We'll get you ready inside the studio. We're all very strong on the functional stations. It's the running that kills us.
Yeah, no, and in worst case scenarios, you can walk the laps.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's an incredible thing when, and we are in Women's Month, so we're not just emphasizing it because of Women's Month. But being a lady, let's be honest, it is a man-dominated world, especially the fitness side of things, bodybuilding, et cetera, et cetera. It's always had a stigma behind it with, men own it, they own the space. It's, cover models, that type of thing. They haven't really been, they've been more fitness bikini models as opposed to the sports-oriented side of things. So from a lady point of view, coming into a male-dominated type of sport, how intimidating is it? How have you found it? What's Africa like, South Africa like versus Australia versus the States? Give us a little bit of feedback about how that's been.
Yeah. I've actually never thought of it until you asked the question. I think, I'm quite confident in my abilities in terms of what I do. And I think also, growing up in a sports high school environment, it just, I don't know. I never looked at it and thought, I'm going to be intimidated being a female owner. I have to say, there's been certain times where, my head of operations is a male, and I think, he can come across in certain ways very differently to what I can as a female. So I think that helps a lot, just to have that balance. Just in the sense of, he can be like, Buti, why are you doing X, Y, and Z? And the coaches are like, okay. And, if I was to do that, like that just wouldn't go down so well. Yeah, it doesn't sound the same.
Especially with the accent.
So I think from that side of things, it's just around understanding where's the limitations, and then just making sure that you've got a right-hand man or woman or whoever it is that can do the stuff that you're not able to do. So I think having that self-awareness is really important. In Australia, there's a lot of female owners out there. And I think within this network as well, we've got, just off the top of my head, I know that we've got at least 4 or 5 franchisees that are female owned. So I think it's also probably a softer approach to do something like an F45 as a female in terms of ownership side of things, or being a studio manager or a head trainer or whatever it might be, rather than your, more grungier kind of CrossFit style box gyms. But I think for the most part, I think it's starting. I don't know. Is it leveling out? I
No,
haven't really noticed it.
that's why I'm asking the question,
Yeah.
because it has always been a male-dominated sort of environment, and it's always been about how much bigger you are, and it's got to be about the egos and the mirrors. The mirrors are essential. I mean, that's just the way it is, and it's a great thing to have. Is that when there's a lady coming into this type of thing, it does encourage other ladies to want to become a franchise owner, as opposed to being intimidated. So for me, it's important that you are telling them, you tell them a message, and you say why you've got involved in it. If we look at, obviously you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a business owner, there's 24 hours in a day for everybody. How do you make this work?
Yeah, so I think you just need to prioritize. So, time blocking is probably one of the most underrated tools that people do. So I kind of plan my week out knowing where things must fit in, and, I'm mum number one. I've got to be there for my kids, and they also understand that, mum has to work and things need to happen, but I think also communication is key in that sense. So for me, non-negotiable is I have to train. So I train at least 5-6 times a week, because then that helps me with everything else that goes on, even if I don't feel like doing it. And then number 2, it's the homework and the dinner time with the kids. So, if I know that that's where it is, and then of course, the time with my husband and ensuring that, that's there as well, and the connection is there, and it's not just always work. Some weeks are worse than others. It's super important, but I do block out my time, and I'm very strict with it. So if I've got 2 hours to do some boring admin work that I really don't want to do, that's my 2 hours. I've got to get it done. So I know a lot of people procrastinate a lot and they don't want to do the boring work, but I've got to be honest with you, 80% of business is boring. You see everything on social media and everything looks so exciting and people are so successful and all of that sort of stuff. But those people that are successful are the ones that's got their admin sorted and that they're getting their stuff done. And then you've got your data, you're able to then make proper decisions because,
I mean,
something behind
it's when you see the guys holding the trophies, and winning World Cups, etc. That all looks fantastic, but nobody sees the time spent away from family, the time spent in hotels, all the training, the injuries, etc., etc. So it's a very similar thing. It's just there are times where you've got to put the hard work in. Why am I going to buy an F45 franchise?
Yeah, I would say if you're looking to be part of a community as an entrepreneur, or you're stepping into that entrepreneurial world, or you're an investor wanting to, invest in something that's going to make a bit of an impact within a local community, it's a great business model to have. And if you are into the fitness industry as well, to own a gym and be able to come here as a member and train, it definitely, it just adds to the level of joy that you can have in life. It's such an enjoyable business to be part of. The ROI is there, the business case is there, and I can show the numbers and everything like that should you want to have a conversation about it. But I think all in all, what we're seeing is that the people that are prospects, people that are excited about F45, people that are excited about potentially investing in it, whether they're if you're a mum, it's working out really, really well for people because it gives you that flexibility. I can go and fetch my kids at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I can go and watch their cricket match or their soccer match or whatever that might be. I can manage my time around it. And then there's certain times that, I may need to log on at 7 o'clock at night and get a few things, bits and pieces done. But at least in the day, I've been able to be there and be present. So I think for a lot of people who are looking to get into business in general, into their own business and get out of that like corporate rat race, it's a soft landing when you're involved with a franchise that also gives you so much local support. We've got a great head of athletics, head of operations, obviously myself with a lot of knowledge and experience as well. We've got the playbooks that if you follow the playbooks, it works, We often say, we've crawled so you can run, and that's part of it.
I think as cliched as it is, if you put the effort in, the returns are gonna come on their own. It's when I look at all of this, is this a fad? Is it something that's going to go away? If I think back to things, concepts. I mean, I also come from a food and restaurant, hotel background. But if you think of the different things that happen, bubble tea would be a great example. it was there. Everyone was suddenly buying it. Bubble tea was the big thing, and then it just collapsed. So, is it a fad? Is it going to be around? Honestly, what do you think? I mean, you see this in the States, you see it in Sydney and in Australia. Is this hanging around?
It is. It is.
And why?
So, I think in a world of, particularly in AI now, and the instant gratification, everyone wants everything quick and everyone wants it now. I think the predictions of what AI was going to do across the world in certain industries has completely flip-flopped. I think, initially people thought that, there's not going to be a need for a trainer anymore because it's all going to be online and it's going to be, robots and all this sort of stuff. And what we're seeing is that the industries are being more disrupted, the ones that they thought that wouldn't happen, whether it's the creative side, the legal side, or accounting, or whatever it might be. And what's come to know is that actually the fitness industry needs the real people, because people are lonely. It's becoming a very lonely world because everyone's working in their own little silos. Everything's happening so quickly that people are walking through these doors and they're being greeted by real people, being coached by real people, but then also being in an environment with like-minded people as well. So, if anything, I think it's only going to grow for that reason, because people are looking for community to then have something in common. Oftentimes I laugh, like I'll be out at a braai or whatever it might be, and the conversation.
Sorry, I love that you said a braai, not a Barbie. Love that.
The conversation always steers towards F45, and oftentimes it's like, it's you kind of have this like outer human approach, like view of it, just thinking, geez, this is incredible. The amount of people that have just become so friendly all through F45 Bryanston, and I'm sure out of all the other F45s as well. It really is incredible to see, and quite a testament to the owners who create those communities within the local area. So it's not going away. And what's really great with F45 specifically, they've got a whole athletics team, as well as, the tech team and the marketing and everything like that. But what they're constantly doing is looking at the trends, and they don't jump on it quickly. So, I was explaining to you before we went live, we're introducing these functional rigs, which is, the cable machines and some like squat racks and things like that. And that has been in the making now for probably 6 or 7 years. The network have been screaming and screaming and screaming for something that allows more heavier weights, because although we are predominantly female, the females bring their boyfriends and bring their husbands, and now suddenly they're wanting to like lift a little bit heavier. And also the females are wanting to learn also, like, the science is showing, or that you need to be strong if you're wanting to have a long life. So it's very, very important. And so that's coming through as well. And HQ don't make those decisions lightly. Like I said, it was a 5-6 year decision until they decided exactly what it is. They had it in beta studios across the globe in different forms. And then this is what they've decided now that they're rolling it out. So that's what's also exciting. When I first started with F45, we were doing tuck jumps and burpees and all this random high intensity stuff in our warm up. Now it's a lot more like, okay, we're warming up. And then it's a lot more intentional and focused on that sort of side of things. So if anything, we're going to just be stronger.
And that's very cool to know, because it's you don't want to be jumping into the things. And if you were having any thoughts of investing in a product, like a franchise like this, you want to know that type of thing is happening, that there are plans for it going ahead, that it is going to be long term. It's not just something that's going to be, you're going to purchase something for 3.5 bar and then in a couple of years it's all falling apart. Because let's be honest, it happens with a lot of franchises and that type of thing. So I think it's what you said. It also is the sense of community that this has happened. Everyone was doing, after COVID, Zoom calls, team meetings. We're craving that interaction. We're craving that being one, being in a community where we can encourage each other. And I think that's what I really enjoy about this, is that there is that sense of community, and there's not that sense of ego. It's more a case of, I may lift stronger or I may go faster, but I'm here to support you. I'm not here about to try and look better than what you are. And I mean, that's the one thing that I found with what F45 has been, and High Rocks, I found the same thing. Although yeah, I'm still trying to work out if you have to do high rocks with a shirt.
I was going to say, you know, we say no
Are you allowed to train
egos.
you with a shirt on? I just want to check.
So we say it's no egos, no mirrors, and it's a shirt on policy.
See.
So if you look at our, you know, Instagram stories, you know, we really do showcase the style of training and also, you know, that member experience, but you would never see a man with their shirt off because we have a shirt on policy. And people, you know, often laugh at us about that and they're like, we get hot and whatever, but it's just not necessary.
And I think that's such an important thing because again, it's taking away that ego and it's taking away that stigma. So if you don't look like that, you're not going to feel welcome in a place like this. So it takes that away.
Yeah, and it's also like the females don't even notice now, you know, because they're not looking at these hot guys with these hot bods, and you're just like that's not what we're here for. We're here for our 45 minutes. Let's get it done and let's get out. And you know, we have some very heavy hitters as members across the whole network, in terms of, you know, profession or athletes or whatever that might be, and you wouldn't know. And that's what I love so much about it. And when I speak with these people, and I'm like, you know, why F45? And they say to me, Karen, I get a great workout in and I do not have to think. You know, I have to make micro decisions every single day of my life. I just want to come in, do my 45 minutes, listen to some good tunes, walk out and know that I've got myself a good workout. And that's 45 minutes. You know, we don't wait for anybody. Our session starts at 5:10. It starts at 5:10 and it finishes within 45 minutes. And people love that as well because it's efficient.
But I think that's people respect it and they respect the boundaries and the fact that that is the way it is and this is what's going to happen. Yeah. How many people have you got within the F45 group that own more than one franchise?
Yeah, so at the moment there's myself with 2, and then we've got a nice group who own 8 studios. There's 2 of us at the moment as a multi, and then, you know, we are starting to work with these franchisees who we're seeing quite a lot of promise with in terms of getting them to open up a second studio as well.
Yeah, and I think that's always a recipe. If you see that there are people who are purchasing a second, a third, or fourth, you know, it's a business model that works.
Yeah, and that's also part of, you know, the conversations that I often have with investors or with prospective franchisees is like, what's your goal? You know, if you're looking for a lifestyle business, having 1, maybe 2 studios is perfect. You know, I get my dividends paid out, boom, school fees are paid. Like I don't have to even worry about that. But that's my personal goal as to why I love what it is that I do with a franchise like this, where the guy that owns the 8 studios, you know, now that's a proper business, you know, and like he's got like proper, you know, layers involved and, you know, great profit margins across all his studios, and he's doing very, very well. And that's why I love this model so much, because at scale, it makes a lot of sense. You know, if you're thinking you can make $1 million a year profit and you've got that over 8 studios,
not doing badly.
Suddenly you're like, okay, it's okay.
So it's becoming a worthwhile thing to have.
It's a worthwhile thing to have, yeah.
It's been amazing. Thank you for your time. Details, how can people get hold of you? We'll put it on the links.
Yeah, perfect. So F45 Training South Africa is our Instagram handle. You can follow me. Also Karen Loader on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And if you're looking to look at a franchise, F45invest.com is where you're going to find us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well done.
Well done.
Good job.
You happy with that?
Yeah, that was brilliant.